Our last video as far as output goes was one of the longest ones, but now we'll go into some of the shorter ones which have some information that we'll need to know as well. If we go to the audio tab for settings here, which we've seen before when we set up our devices, we can see the sample rate and the channels. The sample rate we can leave at 44.1. It's mostly accepted at 44.1. If we need a bit higher fidelity, more samples within a second, we can go to 48. I don't think it's the case with mini streams to go to 48. Leave it to 44.1 to be safe. The people who will need it to be at 48 have specific need for it to be at 48 and know what the sample rate does. If you want me to go into that further, I'll do it in another video. For the sake of keeping it simple, let's keep it at 44.1. Channels, we can go mono, stereo, 2.1, 4.0, 4.1, 5.1, 7.1 for streaming. Keep it at stereo. To record extra channels, you'll need different setups, and you need to understand what you're doing for those audio channels. For streaming, you don't know what the receiving end has as far as equipment goes. Most people will be either on their headphones or on their phones or on their TV, which is mostly going to be stereo. There are more people on stereo, and people that are on 5.1 and 7.1 can also hear stereo just fine, but people on stereo cannot hear 5.1 just fine. So for streaming, we'll leave it at stereo. If you're recording something specific, feel free to use different channels. Devices we've seen, so we can add any devices we have. In my case, I don't have a lot of devices attached here, so we can add that, but you can have 4 different mic sources and 2 different desktop sources. The meters right here. The decay rate, you can do fast, medium, or slow, so it depends on how you want the decay. And as you can see, this is a slow decay, so it's slow to go down. This is a medium decay, so it's a bit faster, and fast is pretty much a real-time decay. So I keep it at fast, no need to change it. And peak meter, we can do sample peak or true peak. If we do true peak, you can get the red, which is actually true right there. That's where you will actually hit the red. You can keep it at sample peak. Sample peak is very helpful if you don't know exactly how to set stuff up and you want it to keep it below the red anyway, so keep it at sample peak. If you understand what you're doing, fine, go to true peak and you can play around with that. But sample peak works just fine. Now, monitoring device. If you remember from a couple of videos ago when we were looking at the audio setups, we could decide to monitor our audio devices. This allows us to pick a monitoring device. So if we have a different set of headphones connected to a different port on our PC, we can say, I only want to monitor on that device and on my default device. If I only have one, I don't have options. That's the only one I can monitor on. And Windows audio ducking is disabled by default. Now, what Windows audio ducking is when you've ever been on a call or on TeamSpeak or Mumble or on Ventrilo or anything you want, Discord, when people speak, usually the rest of the sounds will go lower so you can hear the conversation a bit better. That's what Windows audio ducking is. If you disable it, regardless of what happens, you will still monitor the device without the audio going down at any point, even if you're talking. That's what Windows audio ducking is. The last section is hotkeys. So for each one we have here, we can enable, and this is for sources we have. So if we check what we have, so we have our Nintendo Switch there. I'd rather keep it this here so we can see everything. So we can see our webcam overhead here, and we can see our Nintendo Switch and our cam link and our media source tutorial and everything here. As far as audio goes, we can choose to enable push to mute or enable push to talk, but we'd have to set up hotkeys in the hotkeys tab. But this allows us to set those devices to push to talk or push to mute if we need to use any sort of those combinations. We also have a push to mute delay and a push to talk delay, so it allows a few milliseconds before it actually goes live after we've pressed the button, or mute after we've pressed the hotkey button. This I've not had a use case for myself. I usually manage them differently, but it exists if you need to mute anything or push to talk on any of your sources, not just your mic. As far as the stream goes, this is where you enable it, and it will be able to set up in the hotkeys menu as well. And that was the audio tab. In the next video, we'll be looking at the video tab. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave any comments in the comment section, and check out the links in the description. See you in the next one.